Hey guys, it's Nova, and I am glad to be able to actually be back talking because, honestly, it was so frustrating not having my voice. I think I had another sinus infection. It's not the first one this year, it's actually one of several. So I am very glad to have that back. I still don't have all of my voice back. I will be trying to cut out any coughing and throat clearing as I have been trying to do. I'm not always successful getting all of it gone, but I will try. And fun fact, at least part of this has been allergies. I've been in a little bit of denial that I even have allergies because I have never had allergies before. So this is new to me and getting used to it is frustrating. But we are back talking today. And first, I do want to talk about the art before we get into things, because today I'm going to be talking about random types of art that I don't enjoy doing. And I don't know how many people I'm going to make mad with this, but it's still fun to talk about. But to get into the art first, this is the same art that I used for my speed paint last week, but I really like it and I want to talk about it a little bit just because I really like it so much. Now, I know I've been mostly talking about trace, and this is not a trace piece. This is actually for one of my other story concepts that the working name, only the working name, is Untamed Magic. The name will probably change. That's just the only name I could think of for a working name without giving a quick summary of it. But it focuses around a character who has a lot of trouble controlling their magic because they have a certain type of magic. And because they have a certain type of magic that's kind of rare, of course a lot of other people are after them. So they do end up with a bit of a protector who was originally contracted to track them down and take them to the people looking for them who wants to use their magic. But this person kind of ends up, the two of them end up totally smitten with each other. So I have this main character here. This is not their final design. Nothing about them is final, actually, except that there is a bit of butterfly and fairy imagery. The accidental trans colors, it was totally accidental, but I regret nothing, and I think it's very pretty, and I like it. I really like it. The crystal was a lot of fun to do, and it was an interesting thing that I'm not sure how I'm going to fit it into the story, but I like the idea of their magic going completely haywire and them actually ending up trapped in crystal for a point in time. That's an idea that might get scrapped. I don't know. I enjoyed drawing the character in crystal, but there's also the factor that that idea popped up literally because a particular MMO that I used to be absolutely obsessed with was called Eden Eternal. And me and my partner, we actually have a couple of different anime-themed AUs that take place in that world, so it's a lot of fun. But your main character started out trapped in crystal and were discovered in a mining place. They ended up breaking out of the crystal and they have no memories of anything, and it's really interesting and I like it. And I really liked that concept, and it has led to me just enjoying drawing characters trapped in crystal. Now, the coloring and the painting of the crystal is something I want to practice more. Going forwards, I think it would be a lot of fun and really interesting to practice those things more and study them so I can make more interesting pieces and maybe a few watercolor pieces. But that's about all I really have right now talking about the art and the concept that it's focused around. So let's get into talking about art things that I don't personally enjoy. Depending on how long I rant about a couple of these things, this might be a two-parter. Okay, so art thing number one that I think is going to make a lot of people annoyed, at least, is I don't enjoy and do not like adult coloring books. And no, it's not a matter of not liking adults coloring in coloring books. That's not what I don't like about them and what I don't enjoy. The designs are just a little bit too much. Even looking at them with an uncolored page, there's so much detail. How do people find them relaxing? I do not understand. I don't understand how people find them relaxing at all. How do you even know where to start? How do people just look at this thing that is so complicated, especially when you get into the mandala ones, and be like, oh, I'm just gonna start here with this color. I don't understand. It completely eludes me. Just looking at them overwhelms me. How do you not get completely overwhelmed looking at it? I do not get it, and I don't understand. And also, bigger thing that I have a problem with them, and this is just a me thing. I can't deal with so many of them that have characters, but they outline the areas that in the original illustration would have been shaded. Why do you outline the shading? Why can't you just give me the basic line art? Giving somebody the basic line art like that could have been perfect for having fun playing with lighting techniques and practicing. And at least for somebody like me, that would make it a lot more fun and enjoyable. But almost all of them, if they include characters, the areas that are supposed to be shaded are outlined to show you that it's supposed to be shaded. Like, if I want to do a coloring book, I don't want to color it exactly how the original illustration was, just maybe with different colors. That's not any fun, at least not to me. The line art like that makes it so frustrating and a pain. And yes, I do know there are things you can do to disguise the line art. I do watch channels like Jordan Persigetti, I believe his last name is. I enjoy his art and watching him turn coloring books into creepy things. I get that, that's fun. But if I'm just playing around in a coloring book for fun, to just color things however I want and maybe experiment in a little bit, like, that is just frustrating. I just want to heck around and play without wholly unnecessary lines in the way. And that actually brings me to the fact that I am not a fan, at least personally, of most coloring books. If they're from a creator or a specific property that I like, that's one thing, so long as they don't do the annoying outlining the shading thing. But general, really basic coloring books? No, this is definitely just a me thing. But I'd rather just be able to draw what I want to color, I guess. And I get it. I get it. Again, this is just a me thing, and I am aware it is just a me thing. But that's just my whole thing. Why would I color something else when I can just draw it? Now, the irony in this is that I would love to play around with turning pictures from kids' coloring books into different things. And admittedly, I kind of would like to play around with making a coloring book, and I recognize the irony there. But again, it's just a me thing as to what I would enjoy, and I really think I'm starting to realize that this is just a matter of greatly enjoying my creative freedom. And I cannot believe how long I rambled about that. Let's move on to the next one. Now, this is again a me thing, but I do not enjoy modern art. Please don't hate me, it's just a me thing, but I just don't understand the appeal. Modern art is just not to my paste? Not to my taste. I like things that look like things. No shade if you like modern art. No shade at all. It's just not for me. And that's when we get into the whole thing of, fortunately, art is very subjective. I'm not saying that it's not art. As far as I'm concerned, anything can be art. I have always said that. I will always believe that. You make something, I don't care if it's a stick figure. It's still a form of art. You're expressing something. I am fully of the opinion that anything could be art. And, you know, plenty of people don't like my art. It doesn't make them wrong. They just have different tastes, and that's totally fair. And funnily enough, side note, I actually used to dislike abstract art in general, but that taste has kind of changed at this point. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I do appreciate it more now, and artistic tastes can always change, especially as somebody evolves. But modern art is just something that is not my thing. I don't enjoy it very much. And if you enjoy it or you create it, good on you. I'm glad you're creating something and having fun making art. That's what really matters. It's just something that I am not big on. So, this is one that what I am not a huge fan of is doing it. I don't dislike looking at it. I just don't enjoy creating it myself, which is why you don't see me create any of it. And that is lineless art. I love looking at it. Lineless art, especially of like characters and stylized lineless art, oh my gosh, I think that is so pretty. It looks so cool and so gorgeous. But I don't enjoy making it. And again, this is entirely a me thing. But I just don't enjoy creating it. I like using lines. My brain just kind of thinks in lines when it comes to how I'm planning a piece. And the idea of eliminating those almost confuses my brain, at least in regard to actually doing it. Nothing in regard to looking at it. I am able to look at it and interpret what it's supposed to be and figure that out very easily. But when it comes to creating it, it's like my brain just makes dial-up computer noises. And for anybody younger who never had to hear dial-up computer noises, I advise you to look them up. And that is essentially the noise my brain makes when I try to contemplate how I would make a piece of lineless art. Which is hilariously, this actually segues me into one of the next ones. Because it's a matter of, I don't think in the way that makes it easy to create that kind of art. I don't enjoy painting. Now, when I say that, and I recognize it's controversial, but hear me out, I do enjoy watercolor painting. But I think that general painting, like with acrylics and oils, is just something that I don't enjoy yet, because I don't really know how to do it. I haven't done much painting, so I don't know what I'm doing, so it's intimidating. And I do think that a lot of that is the fact that people who paint, when they paint, they think like a painter. You pick out these general shapes of colors. You're able to picture things in planes and sections of colors, and in a more 3D type thought process. At least some painters. This is not an all painters thing, because any artist is going to think differently depending on what it is and what they're doing and just how their brain works. That's just how it is. Things are going to go different no matter what. And I do think that it is something that I don't enjoy yet, because I haven't learned how to think like a painter. I want to try and pick out the lines of things and how to sketch out the lines. And that's not really how you think when you're painting. So I get stuck in this loop of, okay, how do I do this? It's like when I look at a form of a tree and try and figure out how I'm going to block it out. I try so hard to think of how I'm going to block out the different colors and add the details. But when I'm looking at my reference picture, I'm looking at how each leaf is shaped, and I don't know how to turn off that part of my brain, which is frustrating. Because it makes it so intimidating, and I don't enjoy doing things that are intimidating usually. I do think as I learn more, I will start to enjoy it more. A great comparison is when I started with watercolor, I was completely unsure if I was going to enjoy it or not. But the more I learned how to do it, I really started to like it more. And funnily enough, I used to, with my traditional art, I used to do pencil, pens, and markers, especially Copics. Now, with my traditional stuff, I tend to do pencils, then pens, and then watercolor. Because I like it more. I can get more interesting effects. I can get more colors without having to worry about layering a billion different marker colors to get the right effect. And without washing out other things. I'm able to do more blending. I'm able to get more just interesting color combinations. And I can do way more with just 3 pans of watercolor than I could with just like 3 markers of the same color. You know, of the same colors as the pans of watercolor that I use. It's just different. This one is definitely subject to change because of, like I said, how I didn't used to enjoy watercolor, but now I do, which a difference that is made that I may not have run into quite yet with the acrylics and with the oils is the materials difference. Because when I started watercolor, I was using the little chalky cake watercolors. Those are horrible. Those are awful. Please do not start with those if you can't. If you can go for something like the Prang watercolors or even Crayola, that's better than the chalky cake watercolors. Yes, it's less colors than you get in that big plastic container with all those chalky looking circles. But in the long run, it's going to serve you better because of learning color mixing and things like that. It's nice to have a lot of colors at your disposal, but when everything dries looking chalky and you can't layer them well, that's going to do you a disservice in the long run. And that might be the issue that I'm running into with paints and with like painting with acrylics, that I'm using poor quality materials and poor quality paints. That might be what's going on here and why I'm having that problem. So I'm going to have to play around a little bit more. So this one is definitely subject to change. All of these are really subject to change as my tastes change. But one of the last ones I'm going to talk about today that I don't personally enjoy doing, and again, all of these are my personal tastes that I just don't enjoy doing. I have nothing against people who do enjoy them. As a matter of fact, if you enjoy them, I respect you for that. Like, major props to you if you enjoy them. I just don't. But this last one that I'm going to talk about is drawing realism. Now again, I have nothing against it. It's just not what I enjoy drawing. Can I do it? I'm out of practice currently, but yeah, I can mess around and figure out realism. I'm just still going to kind of break it down into lines and shapes, but I've taken a couple of classes back when I was in college, and I can do the thing of creating the forms with shading and hard and soft edge shading and all of that. I can do that if I sit down and I want to. I just don't usually want to. I'm very out of practice, but I just don't enjoy it too, hence I don't practice it very much. But the thing is that I just really prefer stylized art. There's something about the personality and details that people put into stylized art that has always appealed to me more, even when I was a kid. I think a lot of that, and like I can track it back to when I say since I was a kid, I mean since I was a kid. There was very little live action stuff that I would willingly watch when I was a child. Like, if it had real people in it and it wasn't something like Are You Afraid of the Dark or Goosebumps where you had the crazy looking makeup characters in there too, if it wasn't something like that, I had very little interest in it. Or if it wasn't like fantasy or sci-fi based, I had such little interest in it. Because it was just boring. If I wanted to look at realism, I would look at stuff in the room. And I don't know, that's just something I've always felt. A great example, actually, of my preference for stylized art versus realism is video games. Video games is a big one. I know in a lot of games there's such a push for making things as realistic as possible in video games, and that drives me up the wall. Like, that's why I like indie games so much. Indie games have a lot more style to them. You can see somebody's individual artistic tastes and artistic talents and preferences coming out. You can see their influences even better. And I have always just found that so interesting. That's actually why, I will see a lot of people disagree with me on this, but on the new Dragon Age game, looking at the gameplay, I know that the trailer was a little bit too stylized. The trailer was a little bit departing way too much from the traditional style of the games. It leaned way more into like the Overwatch stylization kind of stuff that we get nowadays with the games that are popular with kids. And that's not uncommon for them to use in the trailers to draw in a new audience, which is why I kind of took the way the trailer looked with a bit of a grain of salt, because I knew that wasn't how the final property was going to look. And then we got the gameplay reveal, and it was a lot more of a middle of the road, and it leaned more stylized, but with a bit more realistic elements thrown in, which I really actually liked. I've seen a lot of people complaining about it, but from an artistic perspective, I personally enjoyed it more, and I kind of wonder if that maybe comes from the fact that I grew up in the era of games being stylized, because the tech didn't exactly lend much to realism, because everything was polygons and you could only get so much detail in regard to everything. Like, I grew up in the era of, you know, really, really blocky Lara Croft from Tomb Raider. So I do think that is a part of it, but I've always just enjoyed stylization. I have not at all enjoyed the push for being as realistic as possible visually with video games and the graphics for them. I get it. I do get it, trying to show off the technology and how realistic you can make things. But especially whenever you get into things that are like fantasy and sci-fi, just the stylization is a lot more fun to me. And it more so embraces the absolutely out there looks of the worlds that you're creating. And I've always liked that better. So I really enjoy the way the new game does look, honestly. I really like it. That might be a little bit of a controversial statement, but I like it. But in regard to stylization in general and why I don't enjoy drawing realism, I think a lot of it comes from just generally preferring to have a lot more freedom to exaggerate or minimize features and details as I like and to make it my own. With realism, it's a lot harder to do that and stay realistic. I like more expressive faces and bigger eyes, and again, in realism, you can only push that stuff so far before you're getting out of realism. Like, stylized realism, I kind of get that. That's okay. I still prefer a bit more stylization. But I like the freedom to play. For me, a lot of the fun with art is having the freedom to make things different and to mess with things and to play with things. Because when you play with things in art, you're creating this whole world that is essentially your mental playground where you can change things and tweak things and adjust things. And I just think that's a lot of fun. But that's all the ones I'm going to talk about today, especially since I'm not sure how it's going to be once it's edited, but I am inching close to the 23 to 25 minute mark here, somewhere in the middle there. And I think that this is about where I'm going to stop for now on this one. I might do some others later. Are there any particular things in regard to art that you either don't enjoy or don't enjoy making or anything like that? Because I want to hear about that, because I like hearing if people have a different opinion than me, if people have the same opinion than me. Talk about it down in the comments. Just be civil. That is like my one rule for the comment section. Be civil, don't be a jerk. And if everybody can do that, I would love to see everybody's opinions down there. I think that would be a lot of fun and really interesting and would give a bit of insight. And who knows, you might change my mind on some of these things. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. A special thanks to my patrons, Inside Chaos, Salmon, and Creativa Artly. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!